Okay, so I was asked to put together a session around PMOs. And one of the things I like to do is I like to adjust not only all of my sessions to my audience, but I also adjust my bio a little bit. And the reason that I mentioned that aspect of my bio is that it is germane to what we're going to be talking about today. But just before we dig into there, I want to just congratulate our first three presenters. I think they did a phenomenal job. I learned quite a good deal. And as I'm actually, furiously writing and making some updates as we kind of go. But just before we dig into this, we're going to take a look at project management from a PMO perspective and try to answer this question: why are PMOs failing? Now, this is a huge question, and an hour we're going to barely scratch the surface. So well, how can we make this a good, effective hour? And I wanted to look at it very much from a change management perspective. But we've heard the word change management a couple times, so I just want to put this into a clear perspective for you. We're not talking about managing changes of scope within the project. We're not talking about, I have a change request, how do I manage that? All right, because we've had some excellent conversations around how to do that. This is around the human side of change management, okay? So, looking at this question and thinking, how can we help our PMOs become more effective? I did a bit of research, and I found this stat. According to Duddy and Perry in a 2010 study, in the first year, 25% of new PMOs fail. In the second year, another 25%, and a third year, another 25%. So there's only 25% of PMOs that are surviving past year 3. It's a very sobering statistic. And when we think about that and think about, why is this failing? So I elicited some support from my colleagues for some input. I'm going to elicit some support from you as we explore and answer this question. To answer this question, though, I want to talk a little bit about purpose. And here we have a picture of the tugboat Atomic. It was commissioned in 1945. But I want to ask you, what do you think is the purpose of this vessel? It's not a trick question, don't worry. To tug other boats, absolutely. That is one of its purposes. Now, I want you to look at the picture. You're absolutely 100% correct, and I was hoping that was going to be the first answer. Thank you so much. Looking at the picture, what else do you think might have been the purpose of this vessel? As an icebreaker, thank you so much, and you're absolutely correct. So this is a boat, and I actually encountered this boat. I got to ride on it while it broke ice in the late 80s. It was a very cool experience. And as I was researching this to put this together, it is still in active service today. Now, this was commissioned in 1945. It's a diesel-powered tugboat that's also designed to break ice. Now, when we think about this as project managers, as engineers, as designers, we think about what are some of the special features that are needed for this vessel, for this vehicle, for this product to meet its purpose, which is in part breaking ice. And there's a number of very interesting features of this, not the least of which is the shape of the bow. Notice what it's doing. Here's how you break ice. You don't punch through it, you climb on top of it and use your weight to break it. It's a very small adjustment to the shape of the bow, and you now have a successful product. Imagine that this vessel was incapable of breaking ice. Commissioned in 1945. What would our story be today? Mike just gave me the... Absolutely. It would be a nondescript pile of recycled metal somewhere. We might even be driving it as part of our car, etc., right? Yeah. So when we talk about PMOs, I want to first think about purpose. And by the way, I was always told that whenever you do a session, you should always have some sort of icebreaker at the beginning. Awesome. So, that was a dad joke, wasn't it? We're talking about purpose. I want to ask you this. Why? PMO. What is the purpose of a PMO, Project Management Office?
Standardized application of project management methodology across the organization.
Standardized application methodology. Love it. Thank you. Right, so thinking about Muskrat Dam? What was Falls, thank you, Muskrat. I'm thinking Dam, but I'm thinking that's the wrong name. Muskrat Falls.
It's a dead project.
It's a big yeah, it's on the larger side, yeah? There's one where it would actually make sense for us to form a PMO for the purpose of that mega project. Yeah, absolutely. What else? What's the purpose of a PMO?
Ensure the projects are successful.
Oh, thank you. Ensure the projects are successful. We're going to dig into that word successful in a few minutes, yeah? Governance, thank you.
Doing the right projects at the right time to help.
Linda, after my own heart, doing the right projects at the right time. So I did a straw poll of my colleagues. Last week I sent out an email, and thank you for responding. That was greatly appreciated. 3 times people said methodology. So I had 3 different responses. Methodology, allocating resources, controlling resources, reporting, consistency. A couple people said that. Governance did come out. But I'm going to contend to you folks, the true purpose of a PMO is to deliver value. Now, all of these are excellent vehicles for delivering value, but they are not the purpose. We often forget and misalign tactics with strategy. We misalign with what we're doing compared to why we're doing it. And we get distracted in the details. When I'm doing my PM classes, I often ask the question, when someone comes to you and says, I need a minivan, what's the need behind that? Because a minivan's not a need. It's a thing, it's a product, it's a result, it's a deliverable. What's the need? Space, number 1 answer, thank you, and no. That's a beautiful descriptor and an important detail, but it's a detail of the product. It's not the need. What's the need? Getting from A to B, transportation, that is the need. How many projects have we started where we started with the thing and we didn't ask ourselves the why or understand the why? Now, we are often handed projects, yes, but do we understand the why behind it? Do we understand the need? Now, space, absolutely. That's going to make the difference between my Porsche 911 and my minivan, right? Yeah, absolutely. But when you think about transportation as the need and start asking yourself, what are the products that can meet that need? Yes, a minivan is one. What's another one? Bicycle. Public transit. Maybe a Presto card is the right solution. Tugboat. I like the way you think. Now, we kind of chuckle around that, but there's a friend of mine who kayaks to work, right? He's on one side, his work's on the other. There's a little bit of a commute, on either end, so he cycles to the boat, and then he paddles his boat and walks the rest of the way. And yeah, depending upon what that looks like, it may fit our needs. Absolutely. Okay. Now, to Linda's point, doing the right projects at the right time. Here's a scenario. You have $532,325.64 in the bank account. You have 58 projects totaling $1,057,382.52. Which ones are going to be funded? What's driving that decision? Politics. Talk to me a little bit about that, Kevin.
Which sponsor or stakeholder has more power? What's on your boss's performance review?
Absolutely. So which stakeholders have more power? Which are the pet projects? What is on your boss's performance review? Absolutely. Those are going to be factors. What else is driving this?
Organization and strategic values.
Absolutely. Organization, strategic values. You're going to look at these 58 projects and you're going to say, which are the best projects? Which is going to help us get to where we want to go? And we have 3 people in the room today who are going to be doing just that this afternoon. They're looking at 3 projects. They have $1,500 in their budget, and they can only approve one of those 3 projects. So one of the 3 projects today is going to face this difficult decision. Well, actually, sorry, all 3 projects are facing the difficult decision. One of them is going to come out on top. This is really the job of the PMOs, to select which projects make the most sense. And hopefully, it's less on the political whim, hopefully, and more on the I'm actually returning strategic value to the organization. Because when I start returning strategic value to the organization, that's when my boss's boss's boss says, hey, we're getting value out of this. Let's keep doing it. Right? Let's keep doing this. Now, just want to have a quick note on accountability because we do have a wide range of people in the audience today. We have some PMs, we have some aspiring PMs, we have some people who are more senior, who are more, what was the term, Peter, more approaching the retirement phase of your career than the beginning phase. But we're all in the same boat. Because it doesn't matter when that project fails. It does not matter whether it was the project manager, the team, or the PMO who caused the failure, who enabled the failure, who allowed that failure. We're all in that same boat. And Peter, fantastic talk on leadership. Thank you. I want to share with you a favorite leadership book of mine. It's called It's Our Ship. It's by Captain Michael S. Just Google It's Our Ship, you'll find it. It's a brilliant book. But in the epilogue of his book, he says, I made one mistake in my time. He was a US Navy captain who has a phenomenal record. He says, I made one mistake. He said, it's not about our ship, it's the fleet. Because when the fleet goes out, the key vessel in that fleet is the aircraft carrier. And if the aircraft carrier is compromised, the entire fleet has failed. It does not matter how well your individual ship is doing. It matters how the fleet is doing. And this is the perspective as project managers, nay, as project leaders, we need to be more in tune with is how is the organization doing? And how are we contributing and building to that? Okay, so we have some context now around the purpose of a PM, a PMO. But I want to ask you this, what causes them to fail? Because really that's the base question here. So what causes project management offices to fail? Yes?
Forget about the people.
They forget about the people. Love it. So it becomes all about what? The thing. Yeah, oh, thank you so much. I know, as I'm listening to the conversations through the day, I'm like, uh-oh, this is a savvier group than I was expecting. Oh, there we go, thank you.
They're not empowered.
They're not powered. What do you mean?
Empowered.
They're not empowered. And who's they?
The PMO. So what you said is they should have the power to launch or not launch or
Beautiful.
project.
Yes. And this goes back to Kevin's comment around politics and your comment around governance. Because if we don't have that support of senior management, we're struggling, if not failing. One of my favorite success stories, we had amazing support from senior management to the point where the CFO of a major bank phoned me personally. And she followed up on my behalf to a bunch of managers and senior managers who were, get this, slow in responding to me. I was a contractor, not even an employee. Yeah. Peter.
The PMOs fail because they stop delivering value to the organization.
Oh, thank you so much. There it is, the elephant in the room. Yes, they stopped delivering value to the organization. So I did my straw poll again, trying to go too fast. It takes time for people to change. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about this and a little bit about the whole, how we can help people move through. I love the next answer. The reason they failed is because of people. I'll let you fill in the rest on that one. Imposed top-down, I had 3 people saying that, too rigid, too complex, but you hit the nail on the head. We're not delivering value. We get distracted with the details. We get distracted with the which methodology are we using, waterfall and agile, and if we're using agile, which particular agile, and are we calling it this or that, and how we're structuring our charter. And we lose the plot, folks, right? So we're not delivering value. But again, we could spend days on this. I want to focus in on this word, imposed, in the context of imposed top-down. Because really, when we talk in terms of change management and people, this is going to be key. As humans, we want to be in control. And if you disagree with that statement, I ask you to look around the room. We are sitting in a room that has a controlled environment. It's a constant 20-something degrees. There's no rain, there's no fog. Whatever is happening on the other side of that wall, this room stays about the same. Think about the resources we put in to creating rooms like this so that we can control our environment. We want to feel in control, and when our expectations equal our perceptions, when our expectations equal what we're seeing happening, we feel like we're in control. So you came here today with expectations. I'm hoping we've met them. I think we have. And you're like, okay, I'm all right with this. But imagine you came here today and there was a sign on the door. We've moved down the street. Grumble, right? We hop in the car to drive somewhere. It's going to take me half an hour to get there. Oh, lights ahead. There's an accident. It's now taking me 45 minutes. Grumble. It's not meeting my expectations. So we want to be in control. Now, we've got the puppet master here, I want you to think of this from two different perspectives. Let's say you're the one who's the puppet master. How are you feeling right now? Yeah, it's not too bad, eh? I'm driving the ship. I'm in control. How are you feeling if you're the puppet? I'm seeing some good body language up here. Not so much. Now, this is the PMO perspective. I'm driving the bus. This is good. What I'm doing is right. Methodology, it's documented. I've been to conferences. I've been certified. This is what we should do. Let me tell you how to run your project. How are we all feeling right now? Yeah, not so much, right? So we need to think from the PM's perspective. What does it look like for them? And in my straw poll back, I had at least one answer that said, here's how we make project management offices successful. Because of course, you ask any of our associates, for a simple answer, you're going to get paragraphs. Thank you, by the way, they were awesome. And they said, you know what, you have to look at it from the PM's perspective. You have to consult the boots on the ground. Get them to tell you how we should be setting this up. So we want to think about it from the other perspective. Now, this is a key concept when it comes to change management. We need to think about things from the other perspective. How many times, and for those of you who have done IT-type projects, how many times have we talked to the engineers, talked to the designers, looked at the capabilities, created the software, and then handed it to the end user without ever talking to them? Right? One of the worst things you can do is not consult your stakeholders. We've heard this message over and over again. And I loved in Claire's session when she said, we know what to do, but do we do what we know? Because we talk and talk and talk about consulting our stakeholders. But how many of us, be honest now, are guilty at some point in your careers of not consulting your stakeholders? Absolutely, all of us. I'm actually working on an article right now where I'm looking at two projects that are very similar with the same set of stakeholders. One of them has been being shut down since the late 80s and is still being shut down to this day. The other is progressing ahead on time, on budget. Same set of stakeholders, very similar impact on those stakeholders. How they were consulted was radically different. So look for that article coming up. Change management. Change management is not communication. Now, communication is an important tool within change management, but it is not change management. Change management is about attitude. When a person, a stakeholder, an individual on your team, on your project, someone who's impacted, changes their attitude, especially from, oh, no, you're not getting rid of my old system, no, I'm not, to, yeah, let's do that and this sounds good, that's what change management's about. It is not about the product, it's about the people. This next one, it's not methodology. As humans, we look for consistency. We look for habit. In fact, our brains are constantly assisting us in developing habits. Right? If you practice something enough, it becomes normal. If you want to try this out, try putting on your coat. Now, normally at this point I take my coat off and demonstrate, but I got too many wires going on right now. When I put my coat on, dominant hand first, right arm. Slip it on, can do it while having a conversation. I can do it without even thinking about it. Now try to do it the other way. Put your left arm in first. Yeah. Now, do that for the next 2 weeks. What's going to happen? What's going to happen after a couple weeks? You're going to get used to it. It's going to become your habit. It's going to be easy. What's happened is your brain has rewritten itself. It has created new neural pathways to say, oh, you're doing this over and over and over again. Let me make it easier for you. So we take that idea, that concept, that drive, which is a basic survival instinct, folks. We take that drive and we apply it to project management. And we look for a consistent methodology that we can roll out over and over and over again. And for a product that works brilliantly, it's lovely, it's wonderful, there's so many benefits. It does not work when you're trying change management with people. Peter talked about the 3 different personality types with the 4th of the chameleon. If we go into Myers-Briggs, we've got 16. There's all kinds of, it's a continuum, so we've got all kinds of shades of gray in between. Change management is not a consistent methodology across the board. Yes, we have a number of tools in our toolbox, but it's not a methodology. It's about individuals. And finally, it's not about control, it's about influence. And this is why, Leora, when you suggested, I'm going to start with my influence wheel, I was like, yay, thank you so much. Because it is about influence. It's about how do we get people to change from within themselves, because influence happens in the mind of the person being influenced. And that's what change management's all about. It's about how can we help people move towards, and notice I said help, not force or make, because it's their decision, which is really annoying because you do everything right and sometimes it doesn't work still. But it's about influence. So let's think about change for a moment and the amount of change that we've experienced in our broader history. I'm going to take some advice from earlier and get my numbers right. We've been walking for about 7 million years, according to scientists. The canoe was first about 10,000 years ago. Right? And these are all things, I think we've, anyone older than 10,000 years? No? Okay, good. We domesticated the horse about 6,000 years ago. So for the past 6,000 years, this has been our car, our sports car. It's been our plow. It's been our tugboat. The sailing, we've been doing for about 3,000 years. And by sailing, I mean like proper ships, like square ships, you know, the bigger ones, right? You know, Pirates of the Caribbean, let's use that image. All right. Okay, it's now going to get interesting. The first steamship, 1783. That's 235 years ago. The car, the very first one, didn't much look like a car of today that we know, is 1885, about 133 years. The airplane, 1903, was the Wright brothers. Now, we've actually been flying gliders since 1849. And the very first time that humans actually left the face of the earth was in 1783. The Montgolfier brothers in France did the world's first hot air balloon. What's interesting about that, why I wanted to bring it up, is before they did their first flight, it was believed that if we got into some sort of vehicle and went up in the air, we would die. So what they did is they took a sheep, a goat, and a rooster. They put them in the hot air balloon. They launched them into the air. 15 minutes later, when the hot air balloon came back down and all three were still alive, they said, okay, now we'll try it with humans. But it's one of those things where change, there's unknown, there's fear, right? And we need to work through some of that. In 1942, we built the first rocket capable of leaving the Earth's atmosphere. 1942. That's only 76 years ago. Yeah, some big changes. And we're going to be seeing more changes to come. I'm looking forward to it myself. I don't know about you. But we're now starting to see space tourism. Right? So now it's possible, if I have enough money, that I could actually say, hey, can I go on a cruise ship that goes into outer space? Right? I mean, you'll be able to do honeymoons on the moon pretty soon. Now, when we talk about change in transportation, in 1951, when my mom graduated nursing school, she went for her big university postgraduate trip, right? Many of us done that, yeah? She was born in New Zealand, and she was going to the continent, England and Europe. She went by ship. It took 6 weeks. That's one way. And by the way, that was the quick route because the Panama Canal was now open. After she spent a year or so in Europe, she came back, married my father, and they again went to the continent, this time by airplane. Took 7 days. Now, how long does it take today to go from New Zealand to the continent? Approximately? About a day, depending upon what the connections look like. And Airbus has just announced a new airplane that's going to fly non-stop from Sydney, Australia, which is the kangaroo route, to London, England. Non-stop. In, I think it's 17 hours, if I remember correctly. So what used to take 6 weeks, we can now do in less than a day. Like the level and pace of change is phenomenal. And we have to deal with all of that. Okay, I'm going to use a quick little case study for you. Who all uses shopping carts? Everyone's going, yeah, get on with it. All right, shopping cart, successful product? Yeah, absolutely. So, as a project management of the shopping cart project, communication, product was announced, product was developed, it was released, it was put into production, it was installed in stores. Methodology was followed, project was managed, it was controlled, time and cost, it was managed and all that. The product failed. No one used it. When the shopping cart was first introduced, people refused to use them. Why? What might be a reason for you to refuse a shopping cart? I mean, it seems ridiculous today. Why do you think people are refusing to use a shopping cart?
Too bulky?
Too bulky? No, that wasn't it.
People don't like change.
People don't like change. There's probably a bit of that in there, but there are some very specific reasons.
I was thinking the user wasn't consulted when they were developing it, so
They absolutely were not, right? But what's the reason that they were saying no?
It looks like an assistive device, so it might be embarrassing to use it.
That's embarrassing to use. Okay, may I borrow your bag for a second? Here's how people used to go shopping. Let me carry my bag and put things in it, right? So it's an assistive device. I am somehow less of a person because I cannot, thank you so much, I cannot carry my groceries. So how do we solve this problem? What do you think? Make it cool. You're actually almost right on. Here's the change management of the shopping cart. Communication. The product was demonstrated. They literally hired actors and actresses to walk through the store pushing carts. And guess what happened? People went, oh, look at that. Huh. That person doesn't look bad. Actually kind of good looking. So this is not a bad thing for me to push this around. So what they did is they saw it. They saw it demonstrated. Demonstration trumps logic. It doesn't matter how much you explain something to them. Demonstrate it. The product, the focus shifted to the people. We shifted our focus away from the product to the people. They didn't redesign the product. They didn't put fancier wheels or a paint job or hey, let's make it motorized, or maybe we put ergonomic grips. No, they didn't develop the product. They addressed the people. Yeah? Methodology, they needed a creative approach. So again, they hired those actors and actresses. And then finally, control. No, it was about influencing the people. They did not mandate. They did not put police into the grocery stores and say, you have to, otherwise you'll be fined. Think how that would have gone over, right? So it was about influencing. It's about how do we get people to change their attitudes so that they want to, so that they embrace it. Yeah? So let's do a quick scenario here. See if we can apply some of these concepts that we're looking at. Dangerous crosswalk. We have lots of pedestrians, we have lots of traffic. Both are breaking the rules. How are we going to address this issue? What might be some ideas? Put a light. Okay, so there's already a light there, right? And they're ignoring it. Oh, like a policeman. So we're going to have a policeman there to license and ID, please, sir. Right? Now, that will work. But when will it work? While the policeman's there. Because the second the policeman goes away, of course, what do? We respond to our, yeah. What else can we do?
Well, using the same logic, get some nice-looking cars to stop the crosswalk.
Okay, so I want to be on this project, by the way. Lamborghini, Ferrari, Porsche, which are you, sir?
Well, maybe nice new-looking cars, but that relates to the people.
Okay, so some more so maybe get some people to demonstrate, yeah? Because of course, who all's done this? Be honest now. You're driving along, someone pushes the light, so you push the light as well. My wife calls it the buddy system, right? Have you ever noticed you drive more aggressively when those people around you are driving more aggressively? Right? Oh, yeah, you think you're going to get in front of me? Yeah, let me show you. Right? Absolutely. So that could actually have some impact. Yeah, absolutely. What else could we do?
Just show them a video of the accident in that video.
Oh, yes, the gory video. So there's a good friend of mine who's in advertising. And I was wrestling with an issue. For those of you who know me and who see my bio online, I'm also a flight instructor and safety officer. And I was consulting with Linda one day and said, how do we get people to, like, we all know what we should be doing, but how do we get them to do what they know? And she said, show them the gory video. So she was a very bad speeder in her youth, and she was taken into one of those sessions where they showed the accident video, and she says, I don't speed anymore. So that is one way, right? So we need to hit hearts and minds, yeah? So we think about all of these answers, signs, even lit signs that change, right? We think about police, we think about physical barriers. The extreme of, hey, let's build a bridge or a tunnel to physically separate the two, which would be ideal, but of course that's highly budget. oriented, and we're looking at how do we change behaviors.
Some people are born to live their lives. I'm born to dance. Want me to work like a dog in a full-time job? Haha, I'm born to dance. Don't wear no coat, no tie, no shirt, and even no pants. I'm born to dance. You shaking your head? Well, I'll be shaking my ass, cause I'm born to dance. I wanna shake it and shake it and shake it, shake it and shake it, girl. Do you wanna shake it? I wanna shake it and shake it and shake it, shake it and shake it, yo. Watch me dance now.
So that was an experiment that was done by SMART, and they said, you know, how can we change behaviors? And something I'm very much a big fan of is, and we sometimes, again, we sometimes lose the plot a little bit. And I know, Peter, you touched on this. People do things because they enjoy them, right? We do things because they're fun. We move towards things because they're fun, right? We move away from things that are onerous and annoying and we don't like. And this is a survival instinct, folks. You cannot turn this off. 5 times a second, your brain says, do I move towards this? Do I move away from it? Right? Now, we also need to look at the logistics and the reality and that. So this was done as an experiment. And you can find many versions of this. Volkswagen also did a version of this where they did a bunch of things, and they called it the fun theory. If they make things more fun. So instead of using punitive measures to change behaviors, we use fun measures to change behaviors. Right? And we think about how can we implement this and how can we leverage this when it comes to managing our projects. And we think about some of the things that were talked about, especially in the virtual team session. Let's make it fun. Let's get together. Let's break bread together. Even though we're not physically sitting in the same room, doesn't mean we can't do it. Right? Think about some of the most memorable moments on your projects. As they were talking, I was remembering one of my favorite projects. We had a very international team. Now, we weren't virtual. We were all in the same room. But we did a world lunch potluck. We got a world map. We laminated it. Got a bunch of stick pins. We printed off people's names. And we got them to stick their names on the city or country where they were from. Over half of the team, 60-odd people, over half the team were from south of the equator. 80% of the population lives north of the equator. So we had over half the team from south of the equator. We had one person put his pin in Toronto. And of the entire team, that was the only Canadian pin. Everyone was from somewhere else in the world. So we celebrated that. We got to know each people. We created dishes. We came with dishes from our home country and we talked about them. Right? So let's make things more fun. Let's instead of trying to do punitive regulatory type measures to create behaviors, let's try doing this. Let's make it inviting. Let's make it welcoming. And let's try to reduce some of that onerous oversight that we have to have. Let's keep it to the minimum, but you know, we can still have fun when we're doing this. Okay, so I'm going to close out with 3 thoughts here, 3 truths. This comes out of Vijay Verma's wonderful book, The Art of Positive Politics. If you haven't picked this up, I highly recommend it. It's a fantastic book. Here's the 3 truths. People make or break things. Right? Projects do not succeed because we have a superior product. Projects succeed because we have adoption of that product. I can think of a number of projects that I've done over the years where the product was meh, but people loved it. They adopted it. They used it. How many times have you tried to pry an inferior product out of someone's hands to give them a better replacement? They're like, no. And if you want to look at a case study on that, consider VHS versus Beta. Because Beta was a far superior technical product. In fact, its lifespan actually way outlived VHS in a very niche market. But VHS was the main winner because people bought into it. They liked it. They used it. People make or break things. People do what is in their best interest. WIIFM. Again, this is a basic survival instinct, folks. Why are we fighting it? Let's figure out what is in their best interest. Let's get aligned with that. And this goes to that larger level of organizations will do what is in their best interest, aka when you have a project that aligns with the strategic goals of the organization, your probability of support from a more senior level goes up exponentially. Remember that project where I had the CFO support me directly? Here was our why statement of that project. If you do not do this project, we're shutting the bank down and you personally are going to jail. Okay. All my senior folks here who are making a decision on the project, who's saying yes to this project? That was a no-brainer, that one, right? Now, those are kind of rare, but you know, people do what's in their best interest. So let's think about what's in their best interest. Finally, people support what they create. I'm going to say that one again. People support what they create. Get people involved when they are the ones who are doing the work. A good friend of mine works at BC Hydro. She works in Aboriginal relations. And one of her mandates, one of her key tools go-to is to hire local Indigenous folks when they go on site to do projects. She has a wonderful case study. We did a webinar on this a little while back around stakeholder engagement. She cut a project down, made it faster and easier by engaging local people. So instead of flying this helicopter back and forth for a couple hours a day and bringing outside contractors into this community to do work, they positioned the helicopter on site. They hired local people. They delivered faster and cheaper. And they had support of the community. So if you want to get the details of that one, check out our monthly webinars. By the way, these 3 truths from Vijay Verma, he credits them to his mom. Very wise woman. Fantastic book. To finish off our day today, and I'm going to open this up to all 4 sessions. It's a key takeaway that you've walked out of today, and it can be a relearn. It can be a, you reminded me of X, or hey, that thing was really good. Yes? The mic's on its way.
I guess sort of addressing all of the sessions and the lessons learned is to just keep practicing, keep learning, and if you fail, just keep going.
Absolutely. And that's a huge tenet in the world of change management is this whole concept of a learning organization. And we all learn from each other, right? So I have a wealth of experience. Daria has a wealth of experience. Kevin has a wealth of experience. We all need to learn from each other and keep that learning going. Thank you.
I would add to that and say open and honest communication.
Open and honest communication. We need to admit when we fail, but we also need to share when we succeed. We need both. Balance, yeah. Do that one.
I think it was reaffirmation of the power of the why, so that everyone from most senior sponsor to the most basic technical person on the project understand why things are happening and what their role is and how what they do contribute to that ultimate why.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Keeping in mind that why. And let's not forget, as project managers, even though we're handed the project, we need to at least understand the why, if not help direct it. Prioritize stakeholder engagement. Expand on that a little bit for me.
I think one of the things I've been hearing a lot today, and I have been a project manager as my job title in my life, but right now I'm a stakeholder engagement advisor. And I really think one of the things I'm hearing a lot here today is that if you don't have the buy-in from your stakeholder, first of all, if you don't have consultation from your stakeholders, but if you also don't have stakeholder buy-in, then your project
It's doomed.
most likely going to fail.
Absolutely. So if you don't have that stakeholder buy-in, your project's most likely going to fail. So we need to prioritize. We've got limited resources. Let's be effective with them. Let's prioritize who are our key stakeholders, who do we have to get to, who are the ones that we're going to put the invite out but not be too crushed when they don't call back, right? And how can we effectively manage that?
Opportunities for leadership, exercising leadership by volunteering.
Nice. Options for exercising your leadership by volunteering. Just going to share a very quick story on that. I've just recently volunteered for a national committee on general aviation safety. Transport Canada is reaching out to the community and saying, we want to hear from you. How do we do this better? They're not talking to the professional pilots because they've got that well in hand. We're actually, as a country, we're world renowned and quite well respected when it comes to aviation safety. They're now reaching out to the general aviation community, the folks who own their own planes, who fly recreationally, and they're saying to us, you tell us what's needed and how we're going to do this, because you guys are the boots on the ground. You know what that's like. And the engagement on these committees is phenomenal. We have 8 subcommittees. There's 3 more vying for support, and it's all about that why. And there's one that we actually shut down on the last meeting because it's just, there's not benefit here. Right, we're going to put that one aside. We're going to focus over here where we will have benefit. But yeah, getting those stakeholder engagement, it's phenomenal how well this works. As I mentioned, I've got an article coming up on this, where I've got a case study of 2. It's like the tale of 2 cities.
My key takeaway was just that continuous education is important. We keep hearing the same themes, especially for experienced project managers, but it's important to keep coming and keep hearing the message over and over again so that we keep applying it for our projects. And let's not forget why we're here also, the lessons learned.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about it from your perspective, but the young people are, I guess, again, reminding us that there's value in lesson learned.
Huge value, huge value, absolutely. And bringing those things back to the surface, right? This is reminding ourselves. Many of us are PMPs in the room. How long ago did you write your exam, right? How long ago did you do that big, heavy study? Are you bringing it back to the surface and reminding yourself? What are some of those key things?
One area of consideration or a takeaway, but absolutely the compelling argument of people-oriented change, no question about that. But typical performance measurement
Yes.
of project managers or KPIs of projects are not that.
Yeah, agreed.
So, time, cost, budget, those aren't people-oriented things.
What-
So I don't know.
Yeah, what do you think is the answer to that question?
That would be the consternation.
So my personal opinion is we need to change how we're measuring project success. Every time I hear a person say, what is project success? I pause them and say, or they say, well, I need to make this project a success. I stop them and say, what does that look like to you? Right? And how many times is the answer, it's on time and on budget? Heathrow, Terminal 5, on time and on budget, built to spec. Day 1 it opened, there was thousands of passengers stranded, flights were canceled, 15,000 pieces of baggage were lost. Did we have a successful project, folks? No. They did not train their staff. They didn't take care of the people side of that. Now, they got it right in Calgary when they opened the new terminal there. In fact, what they did, one of the things they did for their customer service people, they trained them on how to direct people in the new environment. So, where to go to find the gates and baggage claim and stuff like that, so that the people who are at the desk would know and be able to be effective. And they did it through AI, artificial intelligence, and virtual reality, and they had interactive computer simulation. So while the terminal's still under construction, they could practice interacting with passengers, and it opened smoothly. Yeah, it is very cool. But this is where we need to maybe change some of those perceptions of what is a successful project.
Perhaps that's our job as practitioners.
I would agree with you. I think it's our job as practitioners to help start that conversation. These are some of the difficult conversations we need to have with our sponsors. I'm going to turn it back over to Leora. I'm here. If you guys want to continue the conversation, would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for your time and energy today.
Thank you.